farming land, but really from the little bit of digging that they did there and from aerial photos, what they found were like 3 big circles, which would be indicative of banks and ditches and of it being a defensive site. Now, because you've been to a few of these sites, you'll probably know banks and ditches on a defensive site, you've actually got the ditch on the outside of the bank, because the whole purpose is to keep people out. Ours is a little bit different, because these banks and ditches on a defensive site will also be towards the bottom of the hill. Ours, it's more towards the top of the hill, and the ditch is actually on the inside of the bank. So obviously the purpose isn't to keep it out. So there's a lot of different theories about it, and we did have a modern day shaman visit recently, and her theory on it was she walked the ditch and she said to her, it feels like a protection circle. Keeps good energy in, bad energy out. Now all I can tell you is when I walk the ditch, there is an eerie sense of quiet. Whether it's keeping good stuff in and bad stuff out, I'm not sure. There's another interesting site just slightly to the north of Hawes Fort, so it's called the King's Stable. Now in both these sites, they've actually found artefacts that date back as far as the Bronze Age. So they were obviously living here for quite a long period of time, even before they built this temple up on the mound. So the King's Stable is another interesting site. It is one you can visit. It's not particularly well looked after, so be careful if you do. And the reason I say that is there's a little body of water here, and it's actually a man-made ritual pool. And as far as I'm aware, it's the only one that they found from this time period in Ulster. So quite a special site. And it really goes to show the importance of water to the Celts. Water and fire they saw as portals to their gods, way to speak to their gods. And that's really why they would have sacrificed things to fire and water.
So once again, getting back to here, this was, you could say, a ritual, a spiritual mound.
This is, So whilst it's referred to as a royal site, because every province kind of had a big site like this really would have been used for ceremonial purposes and seen as a spiritual.
And it was built and knocked many times and burnt.
Well, it's one of these things, really what they found up there were the remnants of the post that make the outside of it. So this building was burnt down, and what they have found left there, they date back to about 95 BC. So unfortunately, because of all that's there, we don't know how long that building stood for or how many ceremonies they had in it. All we really do know is that they burnt it to the ground as part of their final ceremony. So it's one of those kind of life's little mysteries. And because this is the only site where they found evidence of a temple like that from this era, we don't actually have anything else to compare it to. So you really have to go off information that you have about the Celts, and we know that they did burn big structures as an appeasal to their gods. So